Hello and welcome to my second video. I'm returning with my June WIP update, although this is now the 9th of July, so I'm a little bit late. Unfortunately, I've been delayed by mainly technical problems, so I've recorded this video quite a few times, but first I had problems with the battery, then I recorded it but managed to do it all upside down and I couldn't figure out how to flip it around, and now I've been trying to record it and have had constant interruptions, so I'm really hoping that this will be my, 20th and final retake, but let's see how we get on. So I'm going to start with my Bothy Threads kit, and this is the Kings and Queens one. When I showed this last time, I just said that I'm working on this upper corner here, and I'd completed this row except for the names. I'd stitched these kings along here, and I'd just done a tiny bit of a start on Henry here. So my goal was to get these three in the top corner finished. And as you can see, I have now got Henry II, Richard I, or Richard the Lionheart, and King John, who's there holding the copy of the Magna Carta. He's the only one that I actually completed the back stitching on, so I still do need to do the back stitching on these two kings, and I have to kind of come down and complete it on these ones as well. So it's only this bottom row really that I've done everything that needs doing, bar adding in some eyes for them at some point. I have done the metallic here on King Henry, but this project is one that's just kind of sitting around. There's no rush for it to be finished. So I'm thinking, because it is quite a bright white Ada, that I will want to wash it before it gets framed. And I've not washed anything that's got metallics in before, and I don't recall seeing in anyone's videos people just, when they're talking about washing, whether they've washed anything with a metallic in. So I've left out the metallic in all the other ones, so you can see, if I go up here, you can see that there's quite clearly a crown missing here, and the embellishment here on his outfit, and on this king here, Richard II, it's also missing, because I wasn't sure whether I should wash it and then put the metallic in, or if it's okay to wash once with the metallic thread already in it. I kind of decided that I would do the back stitching as I went along, although I've fallen a little bit behind because I'm not the biggest fan of back stitching, and I didn't want to have a project like one of the other ones that I'm going to show you where there's a lot of back stitching to kind of now do once all the cross stitching is complete to make it into a finished object. So I don't know when I'm next going to work on this one, but when I pick it up it should be to do that back stitching. It's quite a nice one to have in the background as a fun little one to pick up and work on. It's nice because each of the kings, when I complete them, it just feels like a small finish. But I'm not in any hurry, and I'm just enjoying the process of doing this one. And it's a kit I've wanted for quite a few years now, so I'm quite happy to wait for that to be done. So that's the first one to share with you. Oops. Now the second one I have is my butterfly pattern, and this was one of the starts that I made last month, or actually back in May now, as part of the first 15 days of Stitch Mania, and I completed then just the bottom of this big pink butterfly here. It's a pattern I bought on Etsy, and this is the name of the Etsy shop that you can see along the bottom here. I think it's one of the first digital patterns that I purchased. Until then I'd bought most of my kits patterns as kits in stores or off a very famous website, so it's the first one I've downloaded, and I don't know if it's still available, but it's a very pretty simple pattern, and I was hoping that I'd be able to show you this as an FFO, and it's kind of lingering in between an FO and an FFO, because as you can see I managed to complete all of the stitching. I've mounted it into a hoop, and I have the felt in the back here as recommended. It did get a little bit tight just because of the positioning of the butterflies that I played around with to get kind of the best contrast with the background fabric. But you can see there's a bit of pink wool felt sat here. I did buy this at the same time that I bought the hoop and the white felt, but then I lost it, and I've absolutely no idea where it went. This isn't the original bit. I bought it probably at the beginning of June, because this was completed, one of the first ones I completed at the beginning of June, and I don't know where it went. It just disappeared off the face of the earth. It's just gone. I looked in all the obvious places. I looked in even some of the unobvious places. And then I just kind of thought it might appear, but it never did appear. So actually, I just kind of went out this weekend and I just bought another piece. So hopefully this weekend I'll get a finish on this, but if not, at least sometime in July. I'm not in any hurry for it because this is, for me, this is just to hang on my wall in my bedroom so it's, I'm not in any rush to get that done. It's just frustrating when you've bought something and then it disappears. So it's gone to that place where everything goes when it goes missing, probably lounging around for a couple of socks quite happily. Anyway, I digress. As you can see, this is another one that I finished. This is a Country Cottage Needleworks pattern, and this is from the Cottage of the Month series, and as you can see, this one is August. This was another one I started as part of Stitch Mania, and again it was early on in May, and at the time I completed this top row here. I'd added in the clouds and the sun, and I'd just done the outlines, I think, of the two trees. So as you can see, I've put in August, the house is done, and the waves across the front here, it's all now completed. I have to say, when I was stitching this, I didn't actually know what these were here, but they're seashells. So there you go. They're a little bit out of proportion, but I guess that's the kind of whimsy of the design, in that the seashells are the same size as the bird. But then when you look at it, the bird is almost the size of the door. So I don't think I'd want to meet that bird because he looks quite big. But it's a really pretty pattern, and actually I was going to say that this, so far, of all the ones that I've stitched, would be my favourite, but the one that I'm working on this month, I think, is probably just about to trump this. Now, I said about my pink wool felt that I bought. I also bought some fabric to make this into a little cushion, because that's what I've been doing with these patterns. But lo and behold, that piece of fabric has disappeared as well. So I didn't bother replacing it, because I am hopeful at some point it will turn up. But if not, I will look around for something else. So that one is August. The next one I have to show you is another bothy kit, and this is cut through haberdashers. And if you watched my first video, you know that I'd completed the majority of this, but I was having a little bit of a meltdown, because I was just doing this blue background fill at the top here on the sign, and I think I'd got to somewhere about here, and I had done this end as well, and I was kind of then coming in across this way and hoping to meet in the middle somewhere, and I realised that I didn't have enough thread. Well, the good news is, while I was trying to tear everything apart, looking to see if I could find the wool felt, I actually found some kind of balled up thread, which is really not something I should admit, but I am a little bit careless with my thread sometimes. But the benefit of that was that I did find it. So fortunately, as you can see, I have now been able to frog out the green, which I'd done incorrectly, and add in the blue. So this now is complete, and it's done in the colour it should do. Because at one point I was thinking it might be easy just to frog the whole of the blue out, and either just use a different colour altogether, or maybe just do it in this green and just repeat it. But I wasn't too keen on having to do that. So I'm really pleased that I managed to find that, and I had just enough. I literally had one thread left at the end of it, so that was quite good going, really. But while I was unpicking, and while I was in the mood, I also made another change to this pattern. So if you have a look, you've got a woman here buying some fabric about to go into the haberdashers, and I thought, well, I'm starting to get a little bit more really adventurous, but thinking about how I could personalise patterns or change them up a little bit. And I thought, well, I'm not blonde, I'm a brunette, and I was attracted to this pattern because I thought, well, this kind of reminds me of me, the the fact that I like shopping in my local needlework shop, and I do a little bit of quilting as well as the sewing. So I thought I'm going to unpick, because I'd already stitched it, I'm going to unpick her hair. I'm going to make her into a brunette. So if I move along, you can see my shopper is now a brown-haired lady. So I basically sat here that evening and I pulled out all of the threads that were in the kind of darker brown range and tried to match them up closely as I could to my hair colour, and this is what I came away with. I will admit at this point I just went for the 2 shades of brown. I didn't go too realistic, so I did leave out the grey because I thought nobody really wants that much realism in their life, do they? I certainly don't anyway. So then on to my next one, and this is my Christmas bells design. I again started this as a project during Stitch Mania, and I was hoping to get this finished in the month of June, and I would have got it done, but unfortunately I ran out of the Strawberry Fields thread that I was using here, so it didn't quite make it to the end. I did find a replacement thread here because I didn't have the greens that were recommended in the pattern, and I didn't think it was worth buying 2 kind of speciality threads just for this bit of writing here and the holly at the top. So I used, I think this is Baby Spinach, which, oh, I can't remember who makes Baby Spinach now. It might come back to me. If anyone's really interested, I can just make a note in the comments and I'll look it up for you. And the other green, it's not showing as too much of a contrast on the camera, but there is a bit of a difference. And this is just a green DMC I pulled from my stash. You might be able to tell, but I had a bit of an issue here where I had to do some frogging, or as I like to call it, reverse stitching. And I kept starting 1 square over down here, so when I would stitch around and I'd come up to do the bird that's facing this one, it was 1 square over. So I unpicked it and then I stitched it again, and I did exactly the same thing. So the second time that I was pulling it all out, unfortunately that thread frayed, so I just thought, oh, I'll just put it away and I'm going to start again. I think with this fabric it's got a metallic in it and it makes it quite, I mean, it's not rough, but it does definitely have a bit of a, it's not a very soft fabric compared to some of the other linens and even weaves I used. So I don't think that's particularly floss friendly. Anyway, I did a big order for some speciality threads and they've all come in. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get this done, yeah, maybe this month. But again, it's a Christmas pattern, so it's not a big rush to get it sorted because it's a few months away before Christmas. And I had thought that I was going to make it into a hanging decoration, but with all the other finishes that are coming up and being shown on YouTube, I might try something a little bit more adventurous, because a kind of a small cushion hanging is my general kind of approach, but it might be nice to do something a little bit different with this one, so we shall see. Okay, so moving on to the next one. This pattern I showed on my last video, it's a Waxing Moons design, and it says, if you can't stir with a big girl, stay away from the cauldron. And I chose this for the stitch along that the Stitch Mania group were doing, and it was part of the Orange is the New Black stitch along. So when the new series was released on Netflix, the idea was to pick something that was orange or black or in any kind of way related to that theme and stitch along on that. I didn't actually get to start this on the day that the programme was released because I had a migraine, so it was probably actually a week later that I picked this up, and as you can see, this is how far I've got with it. So I'm really actually enjoying stitching on this one, and I am going to keep it as a project that I stitch when I watch the programme. So yeah, I think this was 3 or maybe 4 episodes, I'm not entirely sure, but I've kind of stopped watching it at the moment because Wimbledon's on over here, and that's taken over everything really at the moment. So this one's just been put down for a bit, but Wimbledon finishes this weekend, so I'm sure this will get picked up again as I start watching that again. So this is stitched on the recommended fabric, which is a 30 count Weeks Dye Works pumpkin linen, but I did switch out the floss that's recommended, so I'm not using the mascara, I'm actually using an Anchor Black, and I thought with the fabric it didn't really need or you know, I didn't think having a variegated floss would make too much of a difference. It's coming up a bit brighter on camera, the colour of the linen. It's a little bit deeper and richer in real life. I don't know if you can hear, I've got one neighbour out the back who's drilling on the wall, and now I've got neighbours who've pulled up outside my window, so I apologise if it's a bit noisy in the background. It's typical, it was really quiet about 10 minutes ago when I started. Anyway, the next pattern I haven't shown before, but I'm sure lots of people would have seen this one before because it's one of the ABC designs that's done by Lizzie Kate, and it's the ABC of Aging Artfully kit. And I bought this a couple of years ago. I picked it up at a stitching show, and it was a present to myself because I was turning 40 not long after I attended. So it's a bit of a giveaway about my age there, isn't it? But it had, and here's another one, because it had kind of lingered in my stash for a while, and I picked it out last year and I thought, do you know what, I really like this pattern, I'd really like to have it stitched and I'd really like to have it framed and up on my wall. So despite the fact I had lots of other WIPs on the go, I thought I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to start it. And this is what I've got done so far. Let me just pull out a little bit and move the pattern down so you can see. So I've done 4 lines, and I think that leaves me, what's that, 1, 2, 3 more lines to go to have a complete. So in the previous month what I worked on was this bottom line here. So it starts up here, so it says laugh at yourself, mend fences, no whining, and order out. Now again, it seems to be the theme of either losing stuff or running out of things, and for this one the N here should be framed in this green, which is called moss, and obviously I had moss, so I had it in my stash, but I think it's gone on holiday with the pink wool felt. I'm blaming that pink wool felt for everything at the moment that goes missing in the house, but it went missing. So I've also just ordered some more of this with all of the other threads that I ordered in, so I can now go back in and finish this block, and then I need to add the treetop here to the tree. There is a little bit of a correction to be done here as well, because I picked this up because I really fancied working on it, and I stitched this, and when I came across here, it's like, this doesn't line up, because the Y should, the tail of the Y should be a line shorter than the A and the T. So right at the very beginning I've put an extra stitch in the A and then copied it on the T, so I do need to go back and frog a couple of those stitches out. But at the time I was just I just wanted to stitch, you know, sometimes you just actually want to do some sewing, and I do tend to do that, in that sometimes I would just stitch and leave the error in and then go back and do it at another time. Otherwise I get a little bit fed up with things, and they're at risk then of that project being put away and being ignored for a little bit. So it's almost like I have a little bit of a sulk with it, which is very mature, isn't it? But that's kind of how I cope with making errors in my cross stitch. But I know it's there, so I will sort that out. And I'm really loving this one, and I love this brown that it's done in. I don't know, I think you can see the variegation, but this is a Crescent Colours colour, and it's called Caterpillar, and it is really lovely. I have made one small change to this pattern, so if I just zoom in here, you can see that it says here for the J it's Jiggle Jello, which is obviously, Jello is the American word for jelly, and as I'm British I have changed that to say Jiggle Jelly. And I had to have a little bit of a play around with this to fit it in. I copied the Y, I think, from up here in your, but to get a bit of a space between this L and the Y, I had to move the Y over one. So there's a little bit of playing around with the spacing here. And I think if I was doing it again, I might just move it over a little bit more, because this then doesn't look like it's quite central between the two. I might think about that when I get to the end, whether I can live with it or not. I'm kind of thinking in the bigger picture, when you pull back, it's not so obvious. So I'll have a look when I've finished and decide if I want to redo that. I'm not sure if I'll stitch on that this month. I might at the very least add in the green and do the correction, but it's just something that I quite like working on, so you never know. If the mood strikes me, I'll do it. I have to say I'm not a rotation stitcher. I do really pick up what I fancy working on, and I might work on it for a day or a couple of days depending on what it is. If it's a small, I might work until I've got it finished, or I might just work on it until I'm bored and then fancy working on something else, and just pick up whatever takes my fancy at that time. So as you can see, the one that I've got in front of me at the moment is another Country Cottage Needleworks, and this is my Santa's Village. So I had previously stitched these 4 across the top, and then as part of Stitch Mania I stitched the border for the next 4 across here, although I didn't quite get finished because this was kind of midweek and when I was really busy. So what I came back and completed was this one here, and this is, and I had to say this quite carefully, Santa's Stocking Store, because I find that a bit of a mouthful for some reason. But it's really lovely. I enjoyed this one, and I really like the variegation that you've got here in both the lighter red and the darker red. It really does add to it. When I started doing this one, and so if we look back here at these 2, you can see some of the variegation in this second one. I think this is Poncetta Place or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I didn't really know about how you used variegated threads, so I was using the loop method here, and it does make a difference. Although you can still see a bit of the variegation, it's really not as clear as the variegation you can see in this bit down here, especially in this darker red, now that I no longer use the loop method, and I complete each of the stitches rather than stitching a row along and then coming back. I do find that does mean you use a lot more thread, you get through it a bit quicker, and it does make the back a bit messier, but I can't say I'm particularly bothered about what the back of my projects look like, because, well, you've seen a few of them as I flick through, but in the finished project nobody's going to know about it, are they? So I'm really pleased that I got this one done, and again, this is one that's been sat around for a couple of years, so I'm kind of keen to get it finished. I'm not sure that I'll get it done this year, but I'd like to think I'd at least get this next row of houses done, so that would be kind of 2/3 of the way there. So I have pulled out the next one in the series, and this is what's this one called? Oh no, there you go, it's called Reindeer Stables. So it's a little bit different because all the others have been houses, and this one's got stables, but these reindeer are really cute here, aren't they? So I might do that, and obviously I've got the top border already done, and when I'm stitching this one, having done 5 of them, I can kind of almost stitch this without looking at the pattern. Now, one of the things that somebody else has pointed out on YouTube, it was Carolyn who's stitching the Cottage of the Months, is that they don't do, let me zoom in here, they don't do doorsteps for their door. And so when I came to look at this one, I thought, oh, that's the same for the Santa Village one. So you can see there's kind of, it's supposed to stop 1 stitch from the edge on either side. And I did think about coming back and putting the doorstops in, but when I did that, I also realised that I'm really bad at counting around the doors. So if I come up here and I'll show you, you can see, hopefully it's not too blurry, look, I've put an extra stitch in that one, and if I go across, there's an extra stitch in that one as well. So again, at some point, regardless of what I decide to do, I'm going to have to go back and do some fixing. I did do a little bit here because when I looked at it, I could see that there were 2 different whites used here. So this was more of the natural white. This is the bright white that I've used here for the snow. So I frogged that out. So little Santa's kind of floating in mid-air at the moment. But when I get the white out to stitch on this one, I'll go back and stitch that in there. So that's Country Cottage Santa's Village, and it might crop up next month. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I think, oh no, I have got a few more to go actually. On the pile, this is the last that I've got in this pile. And this is, I didn't show this one I don't think in my last video. This is Up the Garden Path, and does it say? Let's have a look. Oh, it's from the Cooper's Countryside series, and it's a Champagne Collections pattern. And I picked this up, it's quite different from all of the other ones that I'm sewing, but I really like walled gardens and old kind of I don't know, country kind of gardens, and I really love the lavender in this, and then the idea of this kind of wall at the bottom of the garden with the view out. So I again started this as one of the patterns for Stitch Mania, and I think at that point I'd kind of just completed, almost done this bit down here. So I have now kind of gone up and started stitching all this bit up here, and I've got random threads kind of around. This is my kind of approach to parking, in that I'm kind of doing the 10 by 10 squares, and then if I've got a bit of thread left over, I kind of leave it to carry on into the next box. So that, I mean, that's what this is all about. So it's not really kind of traditional parking, but it's kind of working for me so far. And again, I don't know if I'll stitch on this month. It's just a little something that I quite like doing, and I think I'll just, you know, if the mood strikes me, I'll pick it up and sew on it. It's quite nice because it's quite different, because it's got that kind of cool full coverage effect that I don't have in some of my other patterns. So that's that one. So I do have a few more, because I do seem to have lots of WIPs on the go. I never just have one or two. So I'm sure a lot of you will recognise this one as Liz Ullman's Box of Delights, one of the many free patterns that she offers on her website. Again, this was a start that I did for Stitch Mania, and I think on the day that I started it, I pretty much just did this top row and slightly round the corner. So since then I've come back and I've started down this side. And my original plan was obviously just to do the first 6, because they're released in groups of 6, but I was really enjoying doing this Blackwork, so actually I kind of carried on and started doing these ones as well. So I actually worked kind of down the rows, so I need to go back and complete this one here. And my plan with it is, obviously I've done all the outside of the boxes in the black as it's charted, but I am going to copy some ideas that I've seen out there. I know Amanda's done this, where she's used lots of different variegated threads to fill in. So I think what I'll do now is I will stitch all of the boxes. So I will finish this one, and then I'll move across and do these ones. And I may even then carry on and do the bottom ones, and then at the end go in and do the infill. If I remember correctly, I think there's some metallic threads and things in there as well, which I don't have a great stock of, so I might have to play around and see if there's anything I need to maybe purchase, or if I have got enough of something that would work with the colours that I choose. But it's my first Blackwork piece, and I have to say I'm really enjoying it. I did find it really, I quite enjoyed the repeating pattern, because you can get into a rhythm with it after a while, and almost not kind of have to keep looking back at the chart to follow it. And as you can see, this is in a Q-snap, and it's got one of my new grime guards on it, so I have to say a thank you, and I hope that you're recovering well, to Tricia, the left-handed stitcher. I followed her instructions for making this, so thank you very much, and I hope you're well on your way to recovering from the surgery that you had. And just out of interest, I am also a left-handed stitcher, so, you know, left-handed people unite. So I may or may not do some more work on that this month. Another one that I didn't actually show my work of last month, I think I just showed the picture, is my Mirabilia, and this one I started again as part of the January stitch along. So I started this on January the 1st, but it then went away, and I left it away, and that was a deliberate decision, because this is my first Mirabilia. and I knew that I was going to love stitching out on it as soon as I started, and I haven't been proven wrong by that. But this last few months since New Year, with the university semesters, I knew I was going to be really busy because I was both teaching and I was doing a course myself as well. So I kind of thought that I would, rather than get stressed and then maybe make mistakes on this while I was really busy, I'd rather put it aside and keep it for when my course had finished so that I can really focus on it and enjoy it. And I'm pleased that I made that decision. It doesn't get a lot of love and attention, but when I do get it out, I really enjoy it. And I tend to only, and I've only got it out a couple of times, but then I do it when I've got a couple of free hours. So a lot of time I may only stitch for 20 minutes or half an hour a day if I'm lucky, just because of time wise and having to do that pesky thing of going out to work and earn money. So during the week I don't pull this one out, so it's more of a weekend job, and then only if I'm not doing something else at the weekend. So what you can see on here, this is a big bow that she has on her dress. So for my first kind of goal, if you like, with this one is to get the bow finished on it. And I'm really it's kind of funny really, because when I bought the pattern, the dress, I don't know if you've seen it, and I haven't got the picture to hand at the moment, it's purple. So when I was stitching this, I thought, oh yes, it's a really big purple dress, but actually there's no purple on this at the moment, because as you can see, it's it's black, which looks very strong and dark on here, and then there's some shading of greys, and then the rest of it is, I think there's about 2 or 3 different blues on here, and then some white. So I'm really interested to see how this develops and whether that black and that blue is as striking when I've stitched some of the purple on it. But I am really enjoying this one. The fabric that I've chosen, it's a Pole Stitches fabric, and I think it's called, I want to say Tudor Rose, but it's really very pretty. It's probably a bit more of it's like a very light blush pink, so it's not showing up particularly true to life on the camera. And I had planned on fully gridding this one, because if there's something that's quite intricate or quite covered in stitches like this, I quite often choose to grid. But it was a pig. It was a real pig to grid this fabric. I really struggled to count the holes on this one, and I don't know if it's because it's of the colour or because of the sparkle it's got in it. But as you can see, I did 3 lines this way and I did 3 lines that way, and then I gave up. So I've got enough to kind of find where the centre is and orientate myself, but I really couldn't face doing any more of that. And again, this one is now wearing a very lovely grime guard. So this is the bigger one that I made on the same day. So again, thank you, Trisha. I'm really pleased that I was able to do that, because there is a lot of excess fabric, and because because both of this one and the Liz Almond are hand dyed fabrics, they won't be washed at the end of it. So I do like the fact that I can now kind of keep my dirty little mitts off the excess fabric while I'm stitching. And I think you'll be pleased to know that's all of the WIPs I've got, the WIPs or the finishes that I've got to show for today. But that's probably enough, because again, I've managed to talk for over half an hour, and that's literally just kind of going through what I've worked on. I don't think I'll have as much to show next month, because work is a little bit busier at the moment, so I might kind of think about doing some of the tags that are out there if I've got a little bit more time, but I think this is probably the limit of what I should do really for a video. So congratulations if any of you have managed to watch to the end. I admire your stickability. And have I got anything else to say? I don't think so. Or what I will say is, have a great July, happy stitching, and I look forward to seeing all of your WIP updates. Bye!